Hello there, lesson 25 through 27 this week. Lesson 25 is called Area as a Difference. So, what difference does it make? The answer is, I don't know. But anyway, the idea is if you have a shape, like a rectangle, and it is 4 by 6, and somebody were to ask you, what's the area? The answer is it's the length times the width, or in this case, 4 times 6 is 24. I always circle and put the area inside to kind of recognize, okay, that's what that is. But what happens if you have a shape that is not a rectangle? And it says, what's this one? And let's pretend this is 8 by 6 by 4 by 12. Okay? And you says, what's the area of this one? The answer is you break it into different rectangles. So I'm going to pretend that I have a big giant rectangle. And the big giant rectangle is 8 by 12. So 8 times 12 is 96. So this big rectangle is 96. Well, the small rectangle, if this is 6 and the whole thing's 12, that means this is 6. And if this is 4 and that's 4, is I figure out this little one. 6 by 4 is a 24 deal. So what's the area of the dark shaded one? Well, it's simply 96 minus 24, or 72. And if this is in inches, it would be square inches. If it was miles, it would be square miles. So when they say the area as a difference, what they're saying is make it a big one and subtract pieces off of it. That is a handy little technique, especially if you have something that's like this. Like that. You could find this rectangle and then this rectangle and this rectangle and add them up. Or you could just find the big rectangle and subtract this little piece. So sometimes it's faster to subtract little pieces than it is to add pieces. Your choice, but that's what lesson 25 is all about. Not too hard, not too hard, not too hard. Okay, so let's look at next stuff. Lesson 26. Lesson 26 is about these statistical words: mode, median, to D, or mean, and range. So this lesson is about learning some vocabulary. So first of all, this is statistics. Statistics means stats is what we call them. Stats is dealing with groups of numbers, groups of data. Data generally being numbers. It could be letters, but generally it's groups of numbers. So pretend that you were taking a vote in your classroom and you're saying, what is everybody's shoe size? And they say, well, you've got a 2, you've got a 2, you've got a 5, you've got a 2, you've got a 7, you've got a 3, you've got a 13. And we want to find some statistical reasoning that goes on with this. So let's look at what these things are. We're going to look at the first one that everybody is most familiar with is going to be, let's say we're going to look at the, what other words? Well, let's look at the range. The range. Range is basically what's your low to your high. In other words, so you look at this list, well, 2 is your low, 13 is your high. And so when we say what is the range of these things, basically it's the distance between those. And so in this case, the range is 11. That would be the range on this set of data. Between 2 and 13 is 11. That's how wide this range is. It's a fairly big range for shoes. And if you notice, much of them are kind of small, but then there's one really big deal on that one. That's the deal. Okay, so now let's look at the next one, the mean. Another word for mean is the average. And as you all know, the average is you just add them all up, 2 plus 2 plus 5 plus 2 plus 7 plus 3 plus 13, and just divide it by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you add all of the data and divide it by the number of items you have. That's the average or the mean. So why don't they just use the word average? Well, the answer is because somebody really thinks it's cool to have 3 of them with the same first letter: mean, median, and mode. So mean people are average people. If you want to be special, don't be average or be mean. I don't know. Maybe that works. Maybe it doesn't. Okay, so let's look at the next one. Mode. Mode. Most people remember this by the first 2 letters, M-O. M stands for most. O stands for often. So if we think of this list, I've got a 2, a 2, a 5, a 2, 2, 2. The mode, the most often in this one is 2. There's a 2, a 2, a 2. And then there's a 5, a 7, a 3, and a 13. So the most often one is called the mode. How's that for spell? Okay. And the median is a little different. The median is, let's say, if you arrange them in order, I'm going to get a new page here to clear this up a little bit, give you some more space. And look at this. Pick a different set of data. To make this a little clearer than the one that I just randomly did. Let's say we have a 2, a 2, a 2, a 2, a 2, a 7, an 8, an 8, a 9, a 10, and 784. Okay, so if I wanted to find the range, it's the difference between 2 and 784. Do you notice that most of this data is small, but there's this one big one? That has a name. It's called an outlier. Usually when somebody is doing a analysis of data and there's something that's so far out of everything else, they just say, this is ridiculous. And one of the ways you can tell that there are outliers is if the range is really big. In this case, the range is 784, which is way bigger than all these numbers. So you can say your data is kind of worthless, or something's really specially wrong with this last big number. So that's that. Okay, so then when we look at the median, let's look at that one. So the median stands for middle number. Okay, so in this case, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to kind of cross them out. That one is the first and second one. This one and that 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 one. So what's the middle number of my set here? 7. That's the median. Okay, that's the one in the middle. Okay, make sense to you? That's it. Well, let's say you had another set of numbers. So let's say you had like 26, 35, 48, and 50. You say, well, what's the median of this one? Well, this is the middle, and that one, okay, that's not it. There is no middle number. The middle number, if it's not the middle number, it's the average of the 2 middle numbers. So in other words, I would say 35 and 48 divide by 2. Or in other words, what you're looking for is what's halfway between those two. And that's how you find the average. So 35 and 48 is going to be 83. Divide that by 2, and it's going to be 41 and a half. That's going to be the median. So, got it? Mode is the most often. Median is either the middle number or the average of, if there is no middle number, it's the average of the two closest to the middle. The mean is the average, and the range is the distance between the first and the last. In this case, from 26 to 50, the range is equal to 24, because 26 plus 24 is 50. That's the difference between those. That is lesson 26. Now let's move on to lesson 27. Lesson 27 is all about triangles. So number 27, triangles. Generally at this point, we're looking at what we call the areas of triangles. So the area of a triangle. It actually has a nice little formula. So I'm going to call the area equals what we call 1/2 times the base times the height. Now you will not see me ever write it this way. I'll say A equals 1/2, and usually I'll use a capital A. Area for area equals 1/2 BH. B stands for base, H stands for height. When you put two letters next to each other, that means you're multiplying them. 1/2 is the same as 0.5, and that's it. So if you have a triangle, and it's a nice right triangle, that means you have a 90 degree, and say this is 8 and this is 6. And I said, what's the area of this? Well, this is the base. So the area is equal to 1/2 times 8. The height is simply this part times 6. And so 1/2 of 8 is 4. 4 times 6 is 24. And if this is miles and this is miles, then it would be square miles. All right. That is one way to do triangles, is if they're nice, simple, 45-degree triangles. I'm going to kind of rewrite this a little bit and show you what if they're not nice clean. So area equals 1/2 base times height. There's different kinds. So the first one, this is called the base, this is called the height. Different kinds of triangles. Well, let's say you have one that is this way. Well, this is the base, and this is the height. So for now, they would give you this, and not a problem. So this kind, same formula, base, and this is height. I'm going to use B and H. B is this distance, height is this distance. Okay. Third option you have is one that is really kind of out of shape. So let's say it is like this. So this would still be your base, but your height would be from the highest point down to where the base would be. And again, they would give you that in any kind of problem. So you wouldn't have to figure it out. In a trig class, you would actually have to figure it out, which is a little more tricksy. But we're not trig, we're algebra. So we're doing pretty good. And that's pretty it. One last little thing. So there's this kind, this kind, and this kind. That's pretty much it. The other is, what if it looks like this, though? The answer is, if this is 90 degrees, just tilt your head a little bit. That's the base. That's the height. Okay, so it's always at the 90 degree, it's these little side ones. So sometimes triangles will be spinnied about in different directions. So don't let that confuse you, just spin your head a bit. Little exorcist lingo there, but just spin your head in circles and life will be good. All right, I will see you later. That is it for this week's lessons. Bye-bye.